Okay.
Hi, friends. Welcome again to Soaring Through Chaos. Yes, we are now officially in the second wave of the pandemic. And you might be wondering, why am I smiling and why is my guest Melissa here smiling? Because this is life. And it's really important that we embrace what's coming to us in whatever form it is coming. And no better person than Melissa Green Sutor, the one who started the Dragonfly Healing Center, to talk about that. Melissa, tell us a little bit about you. We met long time ago, maybe like six. No. We met at the Five Rhythms practice in Mountain View more than a
Oh,
decade ago. Yes.
that was yes, it was a long time ago. I knew it had been multiple years, and yeah, we've been collaborating on things and just connecting around things, having really like great, thoughtful conversations and uplifting conversations and being in supportive community. So yes, it's been a while.
So tell us
Definitely.
about your life and what brought you to practices like the Five Rhythms. And what I see in you, Melissa, the thing that really brought us together was inclusion, diversity and inclusion. And you have been in so many different communities. In fact, your marriage itself is a testimonial to that. So please tell us a little bit about you, whatever you want to say. Where
Oh
did you
my.
start? Well, how did you end up becoming Melissa Suter the way you are right now? The dragonfly.
Oh my goodness, I know there's so much, and you may have to help me out with kind of kind of reining me back in or fixing me back in, because there's just there's so much from my beginnings. It was growing up in very rural Alabama, small town, and then just from the small town, I grew up even further outside of town, just surrounded by trees and nature. And as we're talking about this kind of soaring through chaos and all, for me, a lot of it comes back to nature. That having nature as a healer, nature as a soother, and so I'm very fortunate to have started off my life in that way, being so connected to nature, like running around barefoot, playing with my sister, playing in the mud, being in the trees, all of these things, and even in my present day, now being home based in Hawaii, nature is my healer. Being able to get out for walks, thankfully, even during this pandemic, at least being able to get out into nature and breathe in fresh air and really connect to nature as a healer. So it's been a long journey from Alabama to Hawaii, spending a lot of years in California where we met, and you're talking about like Five Rhythms, and then like mindfulness meditation and all these different practices that I would have not connected with at all when I was in Alabama. I was growing up in a whole very different way. I was very fundamental Christian, grew up in Southern Baptist church, learned a lot of things that were more, that religious dogma in a way. And I was taught to be judgmental. I was taught to be a bit closed-minded. I was taught that, that we're all God's children. However, only some of us are chosen, and only some of us will get to, live this eternal life with God and all of these things. So what I know deeply and what I experience so much is transformation. I know transformation. So to come out of learning and being a certain way and being kind of rigid with that, and allowing myself to open and expand my own thinking, my heart, those are huge transformations, definitely, and a lot of things along the way that got me to those points that I'm going to kind of stop right now and see.
No, no, it's perfect. It's perfect. I remember at the time when we met, you were still in the high-tech industry. And correct me if I'm wrong, were you the first Black person at the university where you studied engineering or computer science? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us
So,
a little bit about it. What did it feel like coming out of rural Alabama, and where did you go to school? Just a little bit about everything.
okay. Yeah. So, one of the things I do want to mention, because you brought up the whole diversity and inclusion and how we really connected around that, and how that has been such a part of my life or my whole life. Because of course, growing up in Alabama, race is just that's a part. It's such a huge part of life, and it's something that you can't get away from it. It's just and growing up in that way, where being in the South, where I'm like, a lot of people are talking about it more and more these days, of white supremacy and the inequalities and all of these things, and it's like you're taught, or we were kind of taught, and what we saw in the world then was that, you just had to accept white supremacy because that was just how it was.
It is what it is.
Yeah, these people are better and these people are not. These people have, all of these things or whatever, and these people don't. And also all of the disparities and all, we're kind of taught to accept it and to live with it. And then for me, even being a young child, just going like, this doesn't feel right, Something does not feel right. Like, how is it that we're in this supposed to be great country where everyone's supposed to be equal? However, we're accepting this way of living where people are not equal, and there is inequality, and there's no, equity and all this. So all of these things that I grew up with, having so much kind of confusion, and going, what is going on? What is this world about? And I remember being in high school, and my best friend and I, we actually went to the school administrators because we'd be able to get out of class and go to these different programs about like, square dancing or like a snake show or, all of these kind of things. However, we never had a Black History program or anything that highlighted the achievements of Black people or any kind of education, or it just wasn't taught in school. It was just like really devalued, completely like left out, and so we went to the administrators and we said, we would love to have a Black History program. And there was like pushback and all this, but we kept at it. And so they kind of came to, because we just kept, we got tired of it. Like, leave it alone. So
and you're good at that. You're good at that.
I just keep going back. And at some point they said, okay, oh my goodness, just, you can do a program. I think they gave us like a half hour or something, but it wasn't going to be open to the entire school. We could just do something for our class. And
wow.
I think we were 16 at the time or something, maybe we were sophomores or juniors in high school. And so we did. We put together this program where we had, different classmates speaking and sharing about history of Blacks and African Americans and different achievements and things that we just didn't learn. We did a lot of research. We found all of these things. We had like dance performance and singing and all this, and we put it all together. And it was wonderful and it was great. And we're like, oh my gosh. And then I go, oh my goodness, it started all the way back then. And then it turned into kind of Dragonfly Healing Center, which was all about these programs highlighting diverse voices, accomplishments and things of diverse people, and bringing people together, people of different backgrounds, people who maybe would have never even spoken to each other before, or met each other before, had any kind of conversation or connection, and really connecting people, bringing people together, you know? So I just realized I've been kind of doing that for a long time.
Very true, very true. In fact, I remember your story about when you were sent as an ambassador from your college about inclusion, and then the student said, "Sister, how many people are there? Can you tell us that story?"
Yes. So I was that was when I was at the University of Notre Dame, and I was getting my graduate degree. Before that, I did my undergrad at an HBCU in Alabama. So I went to Alabama A&M University in Huntsville, Alabama. And I had, it was a wonderful experience. You know, I felt nurtured, and it was amazing to be able to have professors of color, like Black women teaching me, which I'd had some of that in Alabama in like high school and all that, but not at this level. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. So going from that, where it's mostly Black folks, people of color, and going to the University of Notre Dame, where it's mostly white people.
At that time, that was what, more than 20 years ago?
This was in 1995 is when I started. So 1995, and I was the first Black person in their graduate school of computer science and engineering. There were a few Black students in the undergrad program, but I was the first in the graduate program. So it was quite a different experience, and it took, you know, that was also part of activism work, because activism work can be done in so many different ways. You know, a lot of people think activists, and they think they're like, you know, going forward and you're marching and you're protesting and there's so much energy and there's so much power and all this. But it also reminds me of Gandhi. Gandhi had this quote about you can, he says like something about gently you can change the world, you know. So it's just, there are very different ways and all kinds of ways along the spectrum of doing activism work. So for
something
me,
like, is this the one you're talking about? Be the light that you want to see in the world, or you know,
I love that one.
It's embodying our truth rather than preaching.
Yes.
It's practicing our truth, living our truth.
Yes, which is way more powerful than just talking about something, because what really matters is the action.
Yeah.
Because you talk, but if you're not aligned, if your walk isn't aligned with that talk, then, you know, what good is it? Then it's not in integrity, right? It's not true. It's not real. So that, going to that program and being the first Black person in that program was a form of activism, you know, for me, because it's like, it's got to start somewhere. I guess, why not start with me? Okay. Because we've got to pave a way. We've got to be able to start creating that trail, that pathway, so then others can more easily walk that path.
And
so,
when you would interview people of color who wanted to join, and they would ask you,
how many Black people are there?
Which is a natural instinct, because the tribal instinct is always there. And you're saying, you're seeing all of us.
You're looking at
her. I think my daughter went through something similar when she joined Yale about 7-8 years ago. About 10 years ago. But things are changing, and I have to say, I mean, much as a lot of the so-called divisions in American society are getting highlighted lately, I have not seen too many places where there's a sincere effort, really a sincere effort at inclusion. I'm not going to say it's perfect, it's not, but there's so much sincerity in the effort that everybody's making, that I can actually see in our lifetime things getting a lot better than they were 30 years ago or what you have seen in your childhood, isn't it? I mean, I'm not talking utopia, am I?
Oh, I know, because I've been there, done there. I went through such a phase when I was pretty naive about I was actually searching for this utopia. I said there has to be a group of people or some kind of like or group where there's like this utopia. And that bubble got burst.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. Essentially we're human, and if we're not doing our work of evolving to become more conscious, become more, as I say today, more woke, the awakening, as we talk about in spirituality and all, but to become more woke, a conscious kind of more person. If we're not doing that, which takes intention, and energy and action towards that, then we're not we're not going to transform.
And I remember the days when Seema and I joined you at the Venture Retreat Center, where Dragonfly Healing was essentially manifesting in physical form. It was amazing. And the way it was done, it was not like you didn't pay money to do it. You showed up. Could you tell us a little bit about how it manifested then and how it's manifesting now? The Dragonfly Healing Center?
Definitely. We got started back in 2011, and that was the year when we had our first women's retreat, a weekend women's retreat. We've been doing that annually since then, and it also as this calling, really like a spiritual calling for me, and allowing myself to be in this space of openness and connecting and really truly wanting to be of service and kind of being open to what is the best way for me to be of service? What am I here to do? How am I to engage with this world and hopefully contribute to it being a better place, instead of, what we talk about. Gandhi says, be the change that you want to see in the world, and just sitting back and going, well, this is wrong, and I don't like this, and this is, what am I actually going to do to make a change and to make it different? If I want to see the world a certain way, which I would love to see the world be peaceful and loving, and for all people to be able to live together in harmony, and I really appreciate how different we are and celebrate that, and see that we're all in this, we're all human. We have so much more in common and so much more that's similar, and how can we connect in those ways? So really listening to that calling, which led me back to graduate school, at this time in California, and I'm going to Santa Clara University to get my master's in counseling psychology. That's where I met my first professor was Shauna Shapiro, who's has done a lot of research into mindfulness. I have been practicing mindfulness without even knowing what it really was. I was like, oh, this is a thing? And so I did the mindfulness-based stress reduction program with her, and I was just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. It shifted some things within me. It actually allowed me to get into my body, which I had kind of disconnected from for a while, and it really got me back into my body and being able to do like some embodiment practices and stuff like 5 rhythms and all that. And that's really where I knew, I said, this is a part of my life. I was on fire for mindfulness. I was like, I want to teach this too. I'm going to do this. And this is over a decade ago. And then I started doing my MBSR trainings, and she connected me with John Kabat-Zinn and did the MBSR training through that. And it was part of it, how Dragonfly Healing Center got started. besides the calling and the inspiration, the other part of it was out of frustration, because I was going to the different meditation centers, doing my weekly like silent mindfulness retreats and all of this, which I was loving. So I was going to these places and there wasn't a diversity. I would either be like the only Black person or one of few people of color at these retreats. And I'm like, what is going on? Where's the, because I'm loving it and I'm going, I know other people of color will really love this too and get something out of it. And I'm like, what's going on? But then when I would go for the people of color retreats, and of course, it was all people of color, and I was like, wow, there were like 60, 70 people. And I'm like, okay, there are tons of people of color who are really into these practices and want to be involved in communities of practice like this. But then there was this disconnect. And I'm going, okay, so they see that all of these people of color are coming when there's a POC retreat, but where are they when there's not? So obviously there's a disconnect, and the people of color weren't feeling welcome or weren't feeling included, in some way. And a lot of them would talk to me about, like, people would just come talk to me and share with me their feelings and what was going on. And that was it. They felt like if they didn't go to a POC retreat, if they went to a regular retreat at these meditation centers, that they were putting themselves in a place of hurt or harm. And and so Dragonfly Healing Center also really came out of that, because I was like, okay, sometimes I kept seeing the same teachers at the retreats, most of them white all the time. And I said, there needs to be space for diverse voices, diverse teachers, and a place that's really diverse and inclusive, that people of all different backgrounds feel like they can come together in a safe space and connect. And like we were talking about earlier, that's where the healing is. So I said, well, I'm going to do it myself then. And also a big part of it too is it not being connected to any particular religion.
True.
Yeah, and I think that makes it more accessible for people as well. They don't feel like I have to say that I'm Buddhist, or I have to be a Christian, or you can be whatever you want to be. You can believe whatever you want to believe, and that we can all still sit in circle together and connect with each other and connect heart to heart. And yeah, it's been so special. I'm really grateful.
So is there a healing center now in Hawaii where you are? Which island are you on? And
yeah, I'm on Maui, and we did have a physical space here, and of course now it's like, but it already shifted out of the dedicated physical space that I had, and I've been collaborating with the medical center, Kaiser Permanente here, and doing the MBSR classes and all that, so using their facilities. And now with the pandemic and all, kind of everything's a bit like shut down. But I remember you did ask about Venture Retreat Center and how I ended up there. And I was guided there. I had no idea where Venture Retreat Center was for these things. I was out in Pescadero, like they're just on Highway 1 in California, and kind of like took a wrong turn, which wasn't really a wrong turn, and ended up at Venture Retreat Center. I'm going, wow, what is this? And so just park out of the car, and then the caretaker of the land was there. Then we just had a chat, started talking, showed me around all this. They told her what I was up to, and they said, hey, let's collaborate. Let's do some things together. So I kind of helped revive the place by then doing all of these events and retreats.
Yeah, good at this. I remember that's how Venture Retreat Center was as well, on Highway 1, off of Highway 1 in Santa Cruz County, and it was amazing, totally amazing.
Yeah, like magical place. It's like you enter into, like, because the little road is like just covered with trees, so trees lining the road, and it's like you're entering just into this magical little place, something special, huh? Where you could just really be with nature and then with each other. And it was some great times.
I
Yeah.
remember getting into the Venture Retreat Center the first time, and I said, I think I'm Alice in Wonderland. It felt like that. I remember they had a narrow entrance point, and then, like,
Yep.
wow, it just opens up, and all the
Yeah.
greenery and the wild. It had all literally become wild because it wasn't the same old domesticated retreat center. Things had been just left, and the gardener and all, just amazing.
Yeah, it
Wow,
is. It's a wild, a wild place. You're
wild
right. It
place.
opened up
And
into, yeah,
so, is
beautiful.
this place on the Hana side and in Maui, or on the other side?
On the other side, so actually, more central part of the island.
Oh, is that near the Eo State Park or something like that?
Yes,
Oh my
yes,
God, I love that place.
Coconino Valley.
The Eo State Park in the valley. Oh my God, because that's
Mhm.
really pristine and
It is. We call it Little Hana because you don't have to go all the way to the other side of the island to
oh,
get
you have
it.
to go to the Hana side and then trickle into the center. Wow, I think I accidentally stumbled upon something like that, but I was just a tourist, so I didn't have time to really explore anything more than just stumbling upon it and just
Oh,
putting it's like putting a bookmark. Saying, gotta come back here.
yes, you gotta come back when things open up and it's safe to to come. Hawaii is still in the phase of deciding what to do because we're supposed to be reopening
Y-
on August 1st.
Yeah,
So
things
the
are
session
opening up. In fact,
is
I'm
set.
actually planning to go to Africa for the first time. And I was going to go and from Mexico, having learned enough Espanol, I was just excited about flying to see my son, who was in Tanzania at the time. But then the whole pandemic took over. But now that that Miss Corona is kind of hopefully going to slow down a little bit, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Um, my next stop is likely to be Nigeria. Let's see. Let's see. But
Ooh.
again, there's so much to do, and I'm not going anywhere to heal people. I'm going to be there to just know and understand and learn. And that's something I really learned from you, Melissa. To in the togetherness, the healing happens. That's something probably the most precious thing I learned from you, and the Dragonfly. I was never an official apprentice at the Dragonfly Healing Center, but I must have come at least 5 or 6 times, and each time a couple days. And then again, we met multiple times, even in East Palo Alto, and the library and all that. And this notion that I'm going to help someone is gone.
Right.
I'm going to be there, and in the togetherness of us being there together, something
Yes.
magical will transpire. And that became clearer and clearer, because that's the way the Dragonfly workshops are designed. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
It's the bringing together of all the energies and the intentionality of wanting to support each other's journey.
Yes. Oh, and you said that so wonderfully. And that's so true. It is. It's very intentional, actually. And one of the things that I say when I'm starting the retreats or whatever, because some people kind of look at it like, oh, this is the leader, this is the teacher, or whatever. And I make it very clear that that we're all teachers, we're all students. So I said, I'm a teacher, I'm also a student. We are all here to share and to learn from each other. There's no hierarchy here, you know. That's where we sit in circles. We're all on like equal leveling. It's equality and equity and all that. It's like everyone has a voice. Everyone has something to share. It's not like you just come here and you're sitting and you're learning and everyone's teaching you or what have you. And that is a big empowerment piece because then you're empowered to know that we all have it within us. We all have wisdom. We all have knowledge. We all have something to share that can be helpful for someone else. So it's not about putting anybody on a pedestal or saying somebody's greater than or less than or whatever. It's really valuing all of us, And I think that's one of the things that does make it so special and makes it
Yeah. And I also like the fact that at least at the time when we were in those service retreats, there was not like a fixed curriculum that you're going to learn three things in today's workshop, but it was about coming together and doing some real work, whether it was cleaning up a retreat center or planting trees, or it started raining out of nowhere. Okay, then in the midst of the rain, what can we do? And so there was that evolutionary. So embracing chaos was very natural.
Yes. Yes. It teaches us how just being in the moment and allowing ourselves to be open to what is happening, because sometimes we can plan things out so much and we have kind of this rigid schedule or whatever, and we don't take into account what all may emerge and unfold in the moment and in those moments, and then using that information to then guide the next part of the journey. Yeah. So it's really about, what's coming up, what's emerging, what's unfolding, and then how do we want to then take this and keep moving forward, So it's really working with everything that's going on. So like I said, the rain starts, but it's like, how do we want to embrace that? And then how do we want to work with that instead of pushing against it and going, I don't like this. And, this is messing up my plan. This is messing up my schedule or whatever. It's like, well, how do we integrate it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with this whole thing of chaos, how do we work with it? Because it's already here. How do we have and accept this, which is a huge teaching to mindfulness, and he's got so many wisdom traditions. How do we accept what is here in this moment? And it's not saying you gotta like it and be all like, this is great, because because you also want to be honest with yourself, and you may say, no, this is uncomfortable, and this isn't what I want right now in this moment. However, it's here. So how do I accept it and work with it instead of pushing against it? Because the more I push against it, the more I'm going to suffer. Yeah.
It's like good. I mean, I saw that as great preparation for the pandemic. So, because who knew, right, where and what will happen? But this is what it is, and I got to show up and be there with what is. And then what can I do? What's my role in it now?
Yeah.
Do you have any other words of wisdom for millions and millions of people who are suffering at this time in the pandemic, whether it's through loss of life, getting fragile, loss of jobs, the divisiveness surrounding us in many ways? What would you say, and how can people contribute? How can they show up?
And it is, and it really is to acknowledging what is true for us, because for a lot of people, it is tough. This is really tough with the pandemic, and then we have so much that's coming up around race relations and racism in this country, and also, a lot of people are struggling, and it's real. It's very challenging, really difficult, and I say really to more lean into community, as we were talking about that togetherness. And even though we can't be together physically, a lot of people are using, video, even just a phone call, making sure that we're connecting with people and having real conversations, being able to say, this is what's happening for me, and how are you? And really, truly supporting each other, really being there for each other, because there is a lot of struggle. And one of the things that at Dragonfly Healing Center we're doing, of course, we needed to shift a lot of our programming. We had all of our stuff pretty much was like in person, you know, our retreats and our workshops. And we had a big retreat planned for this October. We're going to Morocco, and we're going to be partnering with girls and women empowerment nonprofit organizations in Morocco to share and learn with each other, support each other, and all that shifting. We're doing things online, and we've been raising funds and getting grants to offer free mindfulness-based mental health counseling services. First priority to the Black community, and then to women of color, and also to youth, realizing that we need support. We all need support. We getting into, because what can happen, especially if people are alone, and they're maybe isolating alone, they're kind of sheltering alone, being at home alone, that feeling of loneliness and separation can come up. And even if people are in a household with different family members, you know, maybe they don't feel like super connected or what have you. So it's so important to connect with people. Get on the phone, get on the video, whatever it is. You know, use some of these services that are becoming available to talk to someone, to connect, to feel supported, and to feel heard, you know, because whatever you're going through, if it's, you know, a family member who is sick with the virus, or grief from someone's passing, or you've lost someone, or just the loss of a job, or even the loss of your life as you thought it was going to be in 2020, and it's completely different than what you thought it was going to be. We've got to be able to express that, and we've got to be able to get it. We've got to be able to get it out, you know, because so much suppression goes on, and we push things down, and it comes out in some kind of way. And a lot of times it comes out in ways that are unhealthy, you know. So being able to really, truly share what's on our heart, it makes so much difference. Mm-hmm.
Wow, and it's so true. I mean, I see it everywhere, the amygdala hijacking, as we call it in neuroscience. Basically, our rational thinking slows down and our fears take over. Speaking of which, and speaking of togetherness and talking from the heart, one fine day, this is, I think, around 2015 or 16, this lady, Melissa Green, at the time, I was doing Green Horizons, and I was all excited, and I was getting mentored by you, and you just disappeared to Hawaii for a week. But it was not week, but many, many, many weeks. Tell us what happened.
Yes, I love it. You know, I actually wrote a little short story about
Oh, you
this.
did?
And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna put it on the Dragonfly website, and for people to like download it or read it. So this is getting me encouraged to do that. But I called it "How I Met and Married My Husband in 2 months."
Wow. It sounds like Eat, Pray, Love.
We're still together somehow.
Yes.
It's like we're on year number 6. Unbelievable.
Wow.
So also, it's a story of transformation.
Yes.
You know, big transformation too is when I spoke a little bit about growing up in Alabama. But I grew up with a single parent mom, and she was a teenage mom, and without a father. So I grew up without a father, and it was me and my sister. My sister's a year younger. And we didn't have a relationship with our father. We didn't know him, and you know, nobody really talked about it and all this stuff. So it was one of these things that was very suppressed, you know, pushed down, like, oh, it doesn't matter, like, whatever, what big deal, all this stuff. However, came out in different ways, sometimes very unhealthy ways, because I wasn't being true to myself and connecting with the pain and the sorrow that actually caused in my life, and how it affected my relationships, you know, with men and all this. So it's really the story of how I worked on my own transformation around that, and part of that, acknowledging the pain, you know, working through it, transforming things. And so I had done a silent retreat, and I released so much stuff, and like all this stuff was coming up, and I was, luckily, thankfully, I had this was at a retreat center where I had we all had our like private room, because it must have been for like a whole day or something. I must have missed a day of meditation because I just cried like the whole day, like so much of just stuff was just coming up, and I just allowed it to just release. And it was kind of like a freeing myself. And after that, I had a women's retreat that I facilitated. And then I went to Hawaii. At first, I wasn't going to go because I was like, I'm just kind of like, I did all this stuff, and now I'm just kind of tired. Maybe I just won't go. Though listening to my inner voice is like, no, go on a trip. And so I get to Hawaii, and I had these plans, and the plans got all changed and ended up doing something completely different. And then same with my husband, he had these other plans, and he ended up doing something completely different, and we met. And for him, he was like, oh, it's kind of like love at first sight. Took me like a couple of weeks. But it was something. I'll let you read like all the details when I put the story up there. So we were almost like inseparable once we like reconnected. We were just spending a lot of time together, and it was really it was kind of surprising for me because I didn't want to spend like that much time with another person, but with him it just felt more natural, and we were just it was very like a natural thing, which to a lot of people would seem strange because we're different. When you look at us, we're different. Black woman, and he's white German man. Completely different cultures, completely different backgrounds, and we connected. We didn't allow all of these like identity things and label things and all that to be this barrier. We were both open-hearted, we were both open-minded, and we just connected to that power of love, and that was the focus of it, just this love and listening to the heart. So when he asked me after less than 2 months to like marry him.
Wow.
Because I had worked on reconnecting with my body, being in my body, being embodied, I was able to tap into that and into my heart, what is true? What is true for this? What is true in this moment? And it was very open, it was very loving, and it was like, yeah, this feels right. Didn't make logical sense. But it felt right. And a week later, we were married on a beautiful beach in Maui, and like 6 years ago.
And the next thing we see you at Wisdom 2.0 talking about diversity and inclusion. Like a few months later.
We all just love each other.
It's such a beautiful thing. I mean, as you were saying, it's being able to look beyond the veneer, to be able to look beyond the external cover, black and white and brown and yellow and all that, to be able to look beyond even nationality and the images that we have. We have this the image of Germany being that super Aryan and all that stuff. And these are images, these are really labels we give and ascribe to it as if it's the reality. And the fact that you've been together so close for 6 years since then, and I just celebrated my 32nd anniversary. So I know what it's like.
Yes, I have something to aspire to.
Yeah, and it's not the number of years. It's the to be really honest and say, do I still want to be here? And if the answer is yes, that's beautiful. That's really amazing. And I feel like you're frozen and you came out of that frozenness. Tell us about the story of Frozen in this context. Am I giving out too many secrets here?
You're giving out my whole book, my whole little short story. I will share it because I think it's super cute and all, because right before I come to Hawaii and met my husband, I was hanging out with my nieces in the Bay Area, and we're like, you know, we've been playing outside and all, and they're like, oh, let's watch a movie and all this. I'm like, oh yeah, great. And they're like, oh, we gotta see Frozen. Let's watch Frozen. And I see Frozen. Okay, and this is the original Frozen. And so we put it on as like animated. I like animated stuff and kind of cartoon now. I love getting back into my like childhood kind of thing, just to laugh and relax and play with them. And I tell you, I'm watching this movie, and then there's Olaf in there, and he's this little snowman, and he was just the sweetest thing. I'm like, oh my goodness, he's such a big heart, so sweet and funny and all this, and I'm like, I'm in love with this snowman. He's so great. And then when I met my husband,
and his name is Olaf.
What's your name? I'm Olaf. Oh my gosh, he's real.
He's real.
And he's white.
Very interesting.
It was great because with him, we've been able to talk about race and identity and all these just from the beginning. We've always been able to be very open with each other, have really tough conversations, and share from the heart and just be true and honest. And all of that is so healing, you know, so healing. It's so beautiful. So it's been quite a blessing. And I had actually been to Germany before, some years before I'd even met him. And that was really interesting too, about, you know, connecting with people of all different backgrounds, because I met this German girl when I was traveling in Argentina, I think, and we met like at a youth hostel in Argentina. We got along really well, and she said, oh my gosh, I'd love it if you come visit me in Germany sometime. And I'm thinking, sure. I never thought, I was just open-minded. And maybe a couple of years later or so, we were been keeping in touch. And then I went to visit her in Germany. Her family, they were very nice. They opened their home to me. I stayed with them. She showed me around, took me all these different places, and I just went, wow. And that happened to me so much. Shankar, I tell you, because I did my 2-year kind of around the world traveling, and people were, I guess because I was open and I was willing, and I was wanting to, like you said, wanting to learn, wanting to truly connect with people, and they felt that energy. So many people of all different backgrounds, all different cultures, in India and all places, brought me into their homes, sit down, share conversation, and be with their families. And I mean, just the power of that when we allow ourselves to let go of this fear of the other, you know, just because something is different than what we see and what we believe, it doesn't mean that we need to be fearful of it. It's just different. And to see that difference and be curious about it, and to actually want to connect, want to learn, and not be threatened, because, you know, a big thing about it is feeling threatened. Sometimes if something is different, or if someone doesn't believe exactly what we believe, we feel threatened by that. And
yes,
no need to be threatened.
The defenses come up. That's true.
Yes. Then there's no reason to be defensive. There's no reason. If you're confident in yourself and you know that it's okay for you to believe what you believe and look how you look and do whatever you do. And it's the both and for another person to look different, believe something different, do whatever they want different, and that you still share this common humanity. And that is really what it is.
Yeah. In fact, you know, Melissa, you remind me of these words in different cultures. I just came from Mexico, so I can tell you some things they use. Oh, huevo. It's like when somebody else shows up and you feel threatened, like, but I'm strong, a huevo. And the other one is pinche chancla. That's what somebody said it funny. My name gets changed everywhere. So in Mexico, it became pinche chancla. So I use that to introduce myself. I'm a marrano. So again, this labeling and almost dissing, And in fact, in German, there's even a word for how we even wish when we don't identify with another culture, we wish them bad. For example, I see that once in a while now happening during the pandemic, saying, "Oh, those guys, they deserve it." But of course, we are the chosen ones, and they deserve it. And the German word would be Schadenfreude, where we actually feel joy in the misery of the other, because the other is somehow not either good enough or something to be envied. You know what I mean? We're talking about diversity, inclusion, and coming together, yet we have to face these realities at how our defenses come up, how we try to put up strong, make America great again, or whatever. Here it's made in India.
There has to be a winner and there has to be a loser and all this. We've gotten so much into competition that we miss out on the power and the beauty of collaboration
and cooperation. That's true. That is true.
How is it that, or why is that? And really examining within ourselves, what is this need to be on top, or to feel like I have to be better than someone else, or I have to be more superior, I have to be the winner, I have, and then that ties all into that ego mind, which is really not the truth of who we really are, huh?
Wow, we've talked about so many different things. And again, I'm going to ask you the same question. Yes, we're going through some of the most challenging times that people have seen in their life. Yes. Some of us were in some ways fortunate to have seen misery earlier, and it kind of got us prepared. I mean, to be honest, that's the silver lining. I went through my challenges in childhood, and so did you, and at various stages. So the pandemic doesn't feel as threatening. But for many people, this is like the first time. It's like even their survival is at threat, and then their livelihood is at threat. Besides whatever you've said so far, is there anything people can do to be more in line, to be more present?
Mm-hmm. It's that simplest thing, which a lot of people already talk about, connecting to the breath, connecting to the body. So, it would be, if we can shift it into what is a gift? What is some gift that is coming out of this? And if we can then more so shift more of that focus onto what is that gift? What is coming out of this? Because with every crisis, there is some opportunity. And in mindfulness, neuroscience, when we learn about the brain and all that, it's so much easier for the brain to focus on the negative things and what's going wrong and what's so bad, and that's just kind of how it's set up. Though if we intentionally can try to shift that into, okay, what is an opportunity that can come out of this? And there always is. Even if we can't see it right away, there is some gift that is coming out of this. And it's going to be different for different people, but it's just taking that time to just be still and to listen to what is true for us. And this can really be that chance to do that, because a lot of us have probably been doing things that we didn't want to do anyways, or that aren't really aligned with our values. So if we say, this is what I really value, to reflect on that. What have you been doing in your life that isn't aligned with your values? And then to really connect to what is true. Is this an opportunity for me to then shift things in my life so that I am living more aligned with my values, you know? For some people, you know, when I work with people in like, you know, counseling or whatever that is, and they'll say, okay, well, I really value my family. And I go, oh, okay, then looking at their kind of daily life. And it's like, well, how much quality time are you spending with your family? How many activities? What are you? And then they'll kind of realize, wow, I'm not really spending as much quality time with my family as I would like to and all. And for some people, they will get defensive and say, well, you know, of course I got to work and I got to make money and I got to do all these things. So I can't spend more time with my family because there are all these other things to do. So I will challenge people to say, okay, there's always a solution. There's always something that can be done that can help us to more align with what we say these values are in our life. So this can be that chance to really listen, to really get true to ourselves and go, is there another way? Because you brought up, you know, I used to work in high tech. I was in Silicon Valley. I was a software engineer, IT project manager, all this, doing this whole American dream thing, making good money, being able to, you know, buy the things that I wanted to buy, have the material stuff, all this, you know, whatever. And I still did not feel completely fulfilled. So even though that's what a lot of people are kind of going for, they want that outward kind of success, they want this amount of money or this or whatever. So really listen to what's true for you, you know, and what's true in your heart. And for me, what came up for me is like, wow, I really value freedom. I value connection. So then I start working on how do I better align my life with these values that are true for me, not for everybody else. You know, I can't live everybody else's life for them. And we don't need to be living our life according to what people are telling us that we need to live it. So it may be some small little changes, or it may be major changes and shifts in your life. But for me, it was major changes and shifts, like complete career change, complete like way of living and all of that. And to have the courage and be brave to do it, to make those changes, because that is the biggest gift, to really live in alignment with what is true for you.
Wow, wow, that's true. That's so true. I'm now trying to come back to us. Okay, so I mean, it's so true that being, yeah, I couldn't say it better. I'm just listening. And I'm so grateful that we got a chance to connect up after a solid 5 years. When is the anniversary, by the way? Is that something you can mention here, or is it private?
My wedding anniversary or the
yeah, both.
Oh, it's so great because we got married on New Year's Eve. And
you did?
My sweet husband said, no matter where we are in the world, we'll always have fireworks on our anniversary.
That's true. That's true.
That's great.
Wow, that was January 1st, 2016.
So yeah, we were married December 31st of 2014.
Oh, 24. Okay, December 31st. That's true. Yeah. That's true. 2014. Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Hopefully we'll live to see another anniversary and get our fireworks.
The whole world is celebrating. That's a great way to look at it. And
the whole world is celebrating and just living too. We're living in the moment, and I think here's the other part of the wisdom too of soaring kind of through this chaos, is just being real about it, that the next moment is not guaranteed. No future moments are guaranteed. And that's what the present moment living is such a gift, because this really is the only moment that we have right now. These
Yeah.
next few moments are not even guaranteed to me. So to spend my time, my precious moment of living right now, being so worried and consumed with the future moments, when those future moments may not even come, it's being able to balance that, to hold that in a way of, yes, let me, in this moment, think about my future and somewhat plan for the future in a loose kind of way, knowing that there are no guarantees, and let go of the worry that comes up with that, because we're just using energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess with that, it will be time to say goodbye. It's so difficult. And may you always smile the way you are. And I'm so grateful, Melissa, that you've been a part of our journey, both me and Seema, and about seeing things as they are, and uh, and to be able to
Project Happiness, or
project
collaborating
happiness.
from our
Yes.
programs in East Palo Alto, and you all were really, yeah, just helpful with being supportive of, and open-minded too, about venturing into a community and into a space that was unknown and unfamiliar, and
In
being
fact, each time now that I go back to the US, to the Bay Area, I make it a point to visit the different communities, and it's lovely. It's lovely. I get the biggest smiles when I go to places where uh, what used to be places where I was uncomfortable, now I'm the most comfortable there. Being comfortable with discomfort eventually becomes being comfortable with a much bigger perspective, you know. So yeah, I still remember, and I said, I remember saying, "Oh my God, I want to go to East Palo Alto, but I'm afraid." And she was like, I remember you
right.
saying, "And I'll be your big sister. Let's go."
Let's go. Nothing to be scared of. Let's go. All people, come on. And then we get there and we're like loving it, dancing in the
Yes.
backyard and all kinds of stuff.
And now even Mark Zuckerberg has moved in a big way, and Facebook has grown so much into
Yeah.
the whole Menlo, East Palo Alto area. Not only created jobs, but
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I mean, it has changed the whole persona of that, the whole, the ambience of that whole area, at least that. And then there's IKEA on the other side. So things are shifting in ways we would never have imagined. Um,
Right,
Same thing with
right.
Oakland. And yes, there's the risk of what do you call uh,
Gentrification and pushing people out and all that, which, yeah, we need to be
yeah,
definitely careful.
that risk is always there whenever there's change. Where there's always the risk of yeah, yeah, exactly. But I
So, like,
think
how can we
it's
all coexist? Like, no one needs to get pushed out, and just like coexist.
yeah, yeah. So it's really the whole community is getting transformed as far as I can tell. Some of it is not going to be easy, but overall, it's getting to be a much more global world. And I always, when people ask me about, black and white and shades of gray, I always tell them between pitch black and like totally white, it's not shades of gray, it's the entire rainbow. And I
Right.
remember we had this workshop, which we called the very first workshop, Muna Al Hamis, Muna Al Sheikh from Lebanon originally, and now married to a Jewish Christian guy.
Yes.
So Aaron, she and you and I kind of got together to start this whole embracing the rainbow, and it's
Yes.
about embracing every every hope, every shades of colors. And that's what makes diversity. I think you've been saying that in so many different ways. That's what brings us the richness of the experience of inclusion.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful that I met you and Muna and many, many people along the way. And Lakiba, Lakiba, if you're watching, I remember talking to Lakiba just about just before the George Floyd incident happened, and we were talking about the challenges as well as the opportunities that something like the pandemic are bringing to us. And yeah, we live in a very interesting world.
It is, and I'm so grateful to you as well because you were the one who connected me and Lakiba, and I always remembered that. It is like,
Yeah, that's
so,
true. I forgot. Yeah, and it was Jim Doty who brought us together at the Stanford Center for Compassion and Altruism. So that's
yes.
where I got connected with Lakiba.
And that's what we need to do. We need to connect with each other and connect each other to each, and just all support each other and love each other and keep doing this work that needs to be done for sure because it's like we all love diversity. Don't we? Can you imagine if yes, the palm trees here are really beautiful, but can you imagine if the whole world we only had one palm tree, like all the trees were the same kind of palm tree, like boring. We got all different kinds of trees, so we all love diversity, but it's that
Yeah,
inclusion. How do we
yeah,
make? How do we welcome everyone and show that we all belong? We all belong on this earth. We all
yeah.
belong. Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, it will be time to say goodbye. Not easy,
I
but
know. I
anybody,
know.
if
I keep
anybody has
going.
questions, if they want to know more about the Dragonfly Healing Center, about your work, and about the upcoming book, what's the best way they can reach out to you? Of
Yeah, so
course, you
the
have your
best
Facebook
way.
page.
Yeah, so there's a Dragonfly Healing Center
Oh, great.
Facebook business page. Yeah, so you can just type in Dragonfly Healing Center, and that'll take you to our business page on Facebook. Um, the website is dragonflycenter.org. So
Yeah,
dragonflycenter.org.
I'll add that along with this video. Yeah,
Oh, great. Yeah,
great.
and then from there, there's a lot of information and for people who are, struggling during this time, or even because a lot of our work too is preventative. It's about how do we take care of ourselves before we get to these chronic conditions of stress and anxiety and depression and all that. But for people who need support, definitely go to the website, reach out to us because we are offering these free counseling services and programs to support people during this time. And the more
Great.
grants we can get and funding we can get, then the longer we can continue these programs and the more people that we can offer it to.
Well, thank you again, and I'm so grateful that all the work that's happening through you and that you've been a part of the communities, the diverse and multiple communities you've been a part of. And I will show up someday soon in Maui. It's still my
Yes,
favorite island. And also
come on out.
yeah, I've been to the, what is it called? The Hana side as well as the other side. And I love the Iowa, and it's time to come to Little Hana. So,
Come on. Aloha, ikomo mai. Welcome.
mahalo, mahalo. Thank you, and thank you all for watching. And it's time to say goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks everyone. This was
See you
wonderful.
soon.
Thanks so much for doing this. Take care.
Take care.